In the second last paragraph, Harari compares human biochemistry to an air conditioning system. Now, when you have an air conditioning system on and maybe you've set the temperature to 20 degrees, the system, it tries to keep the temperature constant. If it's hot outside and maybe you open the door and the temperature in the room maybe rises a little bit, the AC will try to bring that temperature down and always return to that same set point. So the change is only momentarily, that is, it is very temporary. So some air conditioning systems can be set at 25 degrees, some can be set at 20 degrees. In the same way, human conditioning systems also differ from person to person. That is, each person has a different setting as far as happiness conditioning system is concerned. On a scale from 1 to 10, so if we take the happiness on a scale from 1 to 10, some people are set between the level of 6 and 10. These people are always happy, cheerful. They have a cheerful biochemical system. And with time, their level, their mood will establish a point of equilibrium. They will stabilize at maybe 8, an average of 8. Such a person will be quite happy even if all the situations, all the external factors are working against her. Like the examples given here, an alienating big city, a city which is unknown to this person, or if she loses all her money and if she has diabetes, even then she'll be happy because her disposition is governed by her cheerful biochemical system. Other people are cursed with a gloomy biochemistry, that is a very sad kind of disposition. These people have a mood that swings between 3 and 7 on the happiness scale, and maybe it stabilizes at 5. Such an unhappy person may remain depressed even if she has all the factors outside in her favor. Like even if she wins $50 million, she will not be happy. Because even if she, gets all such a huge level of happiness, it will only reach a level of 7 at the maximum. It will not go beyond that because her natural level itself is at 7 at the most. So her brain cannot actually process such levels of happiness. Her brain is simply not built for acceleration. Acceleration is excess happiness, excitement. Keeping these two kind of people on mind, when you think of our family and friends, we know that there are some people who are relatively joyful all the time, like maybe whatever happens to them, sometimes negative things happen, but even them, they take it in their stride. And there are other people, other groups of people which we meet, they are always disgruntled. Disgruntled, they're annoyed, they're angry, they're dissatisfied. So no matter what gifts they get, they're always like that. So we tend to believe that if we could change our workplace, get married, finish writing that novel, buy a new car or repay the mortgage, we would be on the top of the world. We think that if all these things happen, like it is my job that is worrying me, or it is, not having a car that I'm not happy. You think like that, but even if we get all what we desire, all that we want, we don't become any happier. Like buying a car or writing a novel may make us happy for a moment. It can startle us, it can surprise us. It will not change our biochemistry. That means that we cannot move beyond that set point which our human conditioning system is set at. How does this relate to above mentioned psychological and sociological findings? The example of the finding that married people are happier on average than singles is taken for consideration. Now first, these findings are correlations. It means that these are connections that are mutual. So you have A is related to B, and the relationship here is that of causation. So causation, it means that if A and B is connected and you say A is the cause of B, then that is a relationship of causation. So the direction of causation here is A is the cause of B. That is, married people are happier than singles or divorcees. It means that marriage is the cause of happiness here. So, Harari is actually reversing that equation. He says that the direction of causation may be opposite of what researchers have assumed, what the researchers have supposed. They think that A is the cause of B, but it could be that B is the cause of A. So he says that married people are happier than singles and divorcees, but that does not mean that marriage is producing the happiness. He says that it could be that happiness makes marriages last longer. And here he explains, he says that serotonin, dopamine and oxytocin, you remember these biochemical substances and hormones from the earlier paragraph, right? These substances actually make people happier, and when these people are happy and content, that will make a good marriage also. So these people are more attractive because of their happiness, and their marriage lasts longer. So there is lesser, chances of divorce. Now, consequently, it's true that married people are happier on average than singles, but a single woman prone to gloom because of her biochemistry would not necessarily become happier if she were to hook up with a husband. So that converse is also an instance that we need to look at. So if the woman is gloomy by nature, she may not become happier after marriage, even if she gets a good husband. He says in the next paragraph that biologists are not fanatics. Fanatic is a person who is excessively or overly enthusiastic about something. Usually it's used for a person who is extremely enthusiastic about a religious or a political cause. These biologists maintain that happiness is determined by biochemistry, but they do give space for other factors like psychological ones and sociological ones. Our mental air conditioning system has freedom of movement, but within the predetermined borders which we talked about earlier. So if we have an upper limit and if we have a lower limit, and these borders are determined earlier, that's why they're called predetermined borders, marriage and divorce can even then have an impact only in the area between the two. It takes extraordinary effort to actually move beyond these borders. So it says that even if you have an average level of 5 happiness, you would never dance wildly in the street. A good marriage could maybe raise that person's level of happiness to maybe 7 from the 5 which is predetermined, but that is very rare. Hence, if we look through the biological lens, we find that history is of very little significance on our biochemistry. That is, our biochemistry is a constant. History can change the external stimuli, that is, events in the past can change the external stimuli that cause serotonin to be secreted, that is, discharged. So it may momentarily make a person happy, but it cannot make people happier in the long run. The next paragraph compares a medieval French peasant to a modern Parisian banker. The peasant lived in an unheated mud hut, so it's not very comfortable. It looked at a local pigsty, while the banker had a splendid penthouse. A penthouse is a luxury apartment on the top floor of a tall building. Now, if this banker had a penthouse with the latest technological gadgets, that is, a lot of devices that make life easy, and a view to the Champs-Élysées, and Champs-Élysées is one of the famous streets in Paris, which has theaters, cafes, and all sorts of luxury shops there. And who do you think will be most happy? Will it be the peasant, the medieval peasant who had a mud hut, or will it be this banker who owns this wonderful penthouse with a beautiful, spectacular view? Most probably we'll expect the banker to be the happier person. But here Harari is illustrating how the medieval peasant, when he completed construction of his mud house, he had a serotonin level that equaled happiness up to the level of 10. Similarly, when the banker finished paying his installment, his bank loan for his wonderful penthouse, his brain neuron levels also reached the level of 10 in happiness. So he says that there's basically no difference to the brain whether you have a penthouse or whether you have a mud hut if you're comfortable in it. So both the persons reached a level of 10 happiness. So consequently, he says that banker would not be one iota happier than this great 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 grandfather, the poor medieval peasant. Iota is an extremely small amount, so the banker will not be even a little bit more happier than the medieval peasant. This is the example of individuals that we looked at. Now, Harari talks of great collective events and he takes the example of the French Revolution. He talks of the events of the French Revolution, like the execution of the king, gave lands to the peasants, declared the rights of man, abolished noble privileges, and waged war against the whole of Europe. And he says that all these events are significant, but these are still external factors. This cannot make any changes in the French biochemistry, that is, the internal mechanism of the French people. So, all these political, social, ideological, and economic upheavals can have very little impact on French happiness. And he says that it is only those people who won the genetic lottery. The genetic lottery is the persons who are born with a biochemistry which gives you a cheerful disposition. If that makes you happy, then you're happy. The revolution cannot make you happy. A gloomy biochemistry, those people with a gloomy biochemistry, they'll keep complaining even in spite of the French Revolution. So those who have a gloomy biochemistry, if they earlier complained about Louis XVI, the last king of France, and his wife Marie Antoinette, they now complained about Robespierre and Napoleon. These were the politicians after the French Revolution. If the French Revolution did not make the people happier, then what is the point of all this bloodshed is the question that Harari asks. Biologists would never have stormed that Bastille. People think that this political revolution or that social reform will make them happy, but their biochemistry tricks them again and again. You think that you'll become happy, but the biochemistry remains the same. The next paragraph talks about only one historical development that has real significance. He says that all this politics, social reforms, putschs, ideologies, these are all insignificant. Putschs is a coup, and here he says that the only significant thing that can make us truly happy is manipulating our biochemistry. So he says that we need to invest billions in understanding our brain chemistry and developing appropriate treatments. But manipulating biochemistry, that sounds a bit dangerous. Now, anyway, Harari says that Prozac, which is actually an antidepressant drug, it does not change regimes, it does not do anything politically, but it raises the serotonin level, and this lifts people out from their depression. This echoes the New Age slogan which says that happiness begins within. So money, social status, plastic surgery, beautiful houses, powerful positions. He says that none of these will bring happiness. Lasting happiness can only come from serotonin, dopamine, and oxytocin.